Everything you call modern life was born from a choice humanity may never have shouldered. A decision made just over 200 years ago set off a chain of events that is still destroying bodies, minds, and the planet itself. And most people were never informed about it. You were taught to thank the Industrial Revolution for comfort, technology, and progress. But you were never told the real price. Because if you had been, you might not accept living the way you live today. This is not the story of machines that freed humanity. It is the story of consequences that bound the world to a rhythm it would never be able to slow down. The Industrial Revolution did not merely change how we live. It redefined who we are, how we think, où we se faire, and what we are willing to sacrifice in the name of advancement. Before factories, before smokestacks, before clocks dictated every second of existence, time carried a different meaning. The day began with sunlight and ended with darkness. Work was hard, but understandable. Every effort had a visible purpose. The farmer knew the land he cultivated. The craftsman recognized himself in the object he created. Life moved slowly, imperfectly, unevenly, but still on a human scale. Communities were small. Life was local. The world was limited, yet comprehensible. Then, within just a few decades, centuries of fragile balance were crushed by a force unlike anything before it. Steam transformed coal into constant energy. Machines multiplied production beyond anything humanity had ever known. For the first time in history, people learned how to produce more than they needed, faster than they could understand. And with that, something fundamental changed. The value of time. The clock ceased to be a tool and became a judge. Every minute gained a price. Every second had to be exploited. Rest began to look like waste. Tardiness became a moral failure. Life was divided into shifts, schedules, quotas. Time no longer followed the human body. It obeyed the machine. For the first time, people did not work when they could, but when they were commanded to. Cities grew like uncontrolled organisms. Rural villages turned into industrial centers almost overnight. Masses abandoned the countryside and ancient traditions, drawn by the promise of wages, stability, and survival. What they found was another reality. Improvised housing, overcrowding. No sanitation, narrow streets drowned in smoke. Rivers turned into channels of waste. Air that had once been invisible became heavy, toxic, difficult to breathe. For the first time, large human populations lived in environments their own bodies were not designed to endure. In this new world, it was not only adults who fed the engines of progress. Childhood itself became an economic resource. Young children with fragile bodies and small hands were ideal for operating delicate machines, cleaning gears, entering spaces where adults could not fit. Work ceased to be a rite of passage and became a premature obligation. Childhood was compressed, shortened, converted into productive force. The psychological costs would not appear immediately, but it would echo through generations, shaping silent trauma, fractured families, and a distorted sense of human worth from the earliest years of life. The sound of factories never stopped. Day and night, metallic noise filled the spaces where silence once existed. Rest lost its restorative power. Sleep became shallow. The human mind, shaped by natural pauses, was forced into constant stimulation, anxiety, irritability, mental exhaustion. Conditions we recognize clearly today were born there, still unnamed, still misunderstood. The Industrial Revolution did not only exploit bodies, it crushed minds under relentless pressure. Inside the factories, the human being was no longer the center of the process. He became a replaceable component within a larger system. When someone fell ill, another took his place. When someone was injured, the machine kept running. Accidents were common. Mutilations frequent. Deaths became statistics. Human pain was accepted as an operational cost. For the first time, humanity competed directly with something that felt no pain, no fatigue, no need for rest. Unbit, lost. Smoke pouring from chimneys was celebrated as a symbol of prosperity. The darker the sky, the greater the industrial pride. Few questioned the invisible damage accumulating in the air. The water, the soil. Rivers became chemical conduits. Fertile land was poisoned. Respiratory diseases multiplied. a debt to the environment that would span centuries. As production expanded exponentially, wealth concentrated in fewer and fewer hands. Never had so many worked so hard, so that so few could accumulate so much. Industrial fortunes were built in a single generation. Economic empires rose upon exhausting shifts and minimal wages. Inequality ceased to be merely social and became structural. Two worlds emerged side by side, one of comfort, influence, and excess. Another of survival, endless labor, and invisibility. Consumption itself changed in nature. Objects had once been made to last, repaired, passed down. Now they were mass-produced, standardized, disposable. The economy demanded constant buyers. Consumption ceased to satisfy needs and began to shape identities. Ownership became a measure of success. Lack became a sign of failure. Society learned to value people not by who they were or what they did, but by what they could afford. A mindset that would only deepen with time. Work, which for centuries had provided identity, lost its meaning. The craftsman saw the beginning, middle, and end of his creation. In the factory, labor was fragmented. One motion repeated thousands of times each day. No sense of the whole, no connection to the final result. The worker no longer recognized himself in what he produced. He merely executed. From that disconnect emerged a profound emptiness, the feeling of labor without purpose. The social consequences of this model soon surfaced and soon rose. Labor movements formed. Strikes, clashes, repression followed. Ideologies took shape as direct reactions to industrial excess. The Industrial Revolution was not only economic, it was the spark of a world locked in permanent struggle. Yet perhaps its deepest consequence was not physical, social, or environmental, but philosophical. The belief that growth is always good, that acceleration is always necessary, that slowing down is weakness. The Industrial Revolution taught the world to run without asking where it was going, to measure success only in numbers, to confuse movement with progress. That belief shaped the centuries that followed. Technologies advanced. Systems grew more complex. The pace accelerated even further. But the mental framework remained unchanged. Work more, produce more, consume more. Even when the human costs became unbearable. Today, factories may look different. Steam gave way to electricity. Coal to data, smokestacks to silent servers. But the logic endures. Long hours, constant pressure, productivity valued above well-being. The Industrial Revolution never ended. It merely disguised itself as modernity. We still sacrifice mental health, time, relationships, and meaning in the pursuit of endless growth. The question that echoes across centuries remains unanswered. To what extent does progress serve humanity? And at what point does humanity begin to serve progress? Perhaps the greatest challenge of our era is not to invent new technologies, but to learn from the consequences of old ones. To recognize that no advance is neutral, that every revolution carries hidden costs, and that true progress is not only what we are capable of building, but what we choose to preserve. Because the Industrial Revolution gave humanity power like never before. But it also taught, in the harshest possible way, that when the rhythm of machines surpasses the rhythm of life, something essential is lost along the way. And as the world continues to accelerate, the most urgent question is no longer what we can still create, but whether we will remember what it means to be human. And in the next episode, we will explore how the digital revolution is amplifying these same consequences on a global, silent, and irreversible scale.